If you missed out on last week's video, let me catch you up. We're the Go Gurley clan, a homeschooling, adventure-loving family of 7. This summer we set out on an epic 3-week road trip. Our last video covered the first couple days of travel, but this video is all about our first real stop, Rocky Mountain National Park. The drive across Kansas is pretty flat, but once you get close to Denver, the mountains rise up in the distance. We stayed in the park at the Glacier Basin Campground. We highly recommend staying in the park to avoid dealing with the timed entry passes and just to be closer to the action. Plus, Estes Park was just a little too touristy for us. One thing you'll notice in the coming videos is that our kids take great ownership in setting up and taking down camp. In fact, it was our kids' responsibility this summer to set up the tent and take down the tent every time we were at a new camp. They ended up getting pretty good at it by the end of the summer, and it really just provided a way for our kids to be responsible and take ownership and even grow in their leadership skills. We made it to our campsite. This is it. Site 117 on the Sea Loop in Glacier Basin Campground. And so we have this really awesome fire pit that is propane, which keeps us from having to buy firewood. This is our stove, also runs off propane. We have 2 tubs, one that's kind of a camp tub and one that's a kitchen tub. Y'all, this is the view. I mean, if that's not a view, I don't know. So we have 2 tubs kind of sitting out here. This is all the kids' clothes. So here's my tip, y'all. Look, we don't have like packing cubes, so we used TJ Maxx bags. Just these little like reusable bags. There's 5 of them in there, 1 for each kid, because it just works. And then in our tent, we have all the windows open right now because it was so windy. Esther, hop up and show them what you're sleeping on. They're pool floaties. So we have 5 kids sleeping in the side. So we have 1 stretched out that way, 4 that way. Husband and I both have twin air mattresses, and we brought sleeping bags, but I prefer like a blanket. So we just brought blankets. If you sleep with a CPAP, you can still camp places like this. My husband uses a battery. That's what this is. And it's reusable and it's perfect. So suitcases with all of our clothes and everything. And so this is it. This is home for the next few nights. It's not a bad view. I think I'll take it. Yay! Our time and activities at Rocky Mountain National Park were greatly influenced by a book we read together as a family. Aaron Johnson is writing a series called National Park Mystery Series, and the first book was set in Rocky Mountain. I'll put the link in the description below. Our second son, Uriah, really wanted to do everything the book characters did. With that in mind, we started our first full day in the park at Twin Owls. You can see the rock structure from the road, and normally you can hike back to them. But when we were visiting in July, the raptors were in nesting season. So instead, we hiked just a little ways back on a trail and did some bird watching, a family favorite pastime. Okay, so far we have seen, what was the nut? Clark's nutcracker bird. We've seen the broad-tailed hummingbird, which I don't hear it right now. It sounds almost like a cicada. And then I'm gonna turn you around. Zooming over the twin owls over there, Uriah spotted something big. And so we're hoping that it comes back around and maybe it's a golden eagle. I don't know if we will, but either way, we've seen some pretty amazing stuff. The next day, we knew we wanted to drive Old Fall River Road. The 11-mile one-way dirt road with crazy tight switchbacks is also mentioned in the Aaron Johnson book. We started with a picnic at Indo Valley and then headed on up. I don't have a ton of video from the drive because, I'm not gonna lie, both Bubba and I were a little anxious. but the drive was totally worth it. Here's Uriah to tell you a little bit about one of our favorite stops. All right, go.
So we just stopped. We're on Fall River Road, and we just stopped at a little pullout because back behind me there's a cabin, and we read this book, and I've been really excited to see it. And so we're gonna head in it or go look at it. See
the Willow Park cabin.
Willow Park cabin.
Yeah, it's a backcountry park.
Backcountry park. So let's go see it.
This is the cabin, which is just amazing and beautiful. And you can see way up there on the ridge, that is the Alpine Visitor Center, I believe, which is the highest visitor center in the National Park Service. But yeah, man, isn't it just beautiful? Talk about a place to have a picnic. You could easily spend several hours here, I think. Once you get up into the tundra area, the views are absolutely breathtaking. Be sure to spend time and visit the Alpine Visitor Center, the highest visitor center in the National Park System. That afternoon, once we got back down to the mountain, we headed out to Sprague Lake. It was one of our favorite places in Rocky Mountain National Park. There's an easy, accessible route all the way around the lake with plenty of bird watching and plenty of opportunities for viewing wildlife. We were truthfully hoping to see a moose, and although we didn't, we caught 2 insanely gorgeous sunsets. The next day was our big hike day. We started at the Bear Lake trailhead. This was the only time in Rocky Mountain that we really understood just how many people were in the park. Be sure to get there early if you want a parking spot. Then we started our trek up to Dream Lake. This is one of the most popular hikes in the park, so get ready to see quite a few people. Halfway up to Dream Lake, we stopped for a snack at Nymph Lake. Here's Benaiah to tell you his spooky Nymph Lake story.
Okay, so legend has it that this lake is full of lake monsters. So whoever swims in there never comes back out again. There's a bunch of lake monsters in there.
What kind of lake monsters?
Well, they're green with fins. They look like people. Have you seen Luca? They look like Luca people. And they get fatter and fatter over time. And eventually they just turn into those lily pad things. So yeah, after they get so fat, they shrink down into lily pads.
The trail was absolutely beautiful, but unfortunately, as we got closer to Dream Lake, I started feeling some altitude sickness and didn't even think to capture video up at Dream Lake. Here's a picture though, just to prove to you, 1, that we made it, and 2, how incredibly gorgeous it really was. I highly recommend this hike if you go to Rocky Mountain. The next day was our last day in Rocky Mountain. We packed up camp and headed back up and over the mountains. We crossed the Continental Divide, found a moose, and then headed out of the park near the Grand Lake entrance. Truthfully, we were sad to leave, even with the multiple adventures ahead. I think there are enough trails, sights, and activities at Rocky Mountain to have kept us busy for weeks or more. Coming back is for sure on my to-do list. But up next, we were headed to Dinosaur National Monument. Join us next week for the unexpected park that stole our hearts.